Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise and focus on what really matters. Today we're jumping into something, well, pretty crucial for many people. The world of international student visas. It can seem quite complex, honestly. If you're dreaming of studying abroad, getting immersed in a new place, getting there legally as a student is often that first big step. Our aim today is to sort of shed some light on the different paths globally, drawing on what we've looked into to help you get a clearer picture. So that's the core question, isn't it? How do you actually make that study abroad dream happen? Because, well, it turns out every country really does have its own way of doing things, its own rules, even its own language for it all.
Exactly, and that's why this deep dive feels so necessary. Just the sheer amount of information out there about student visas. It can feel like, well, a lot. Overwhelming even. So our mission today is to take what we've gathered, find the common threads, yes, but also point out the differences that really matter. We want to give you a much clearer sense of what to expect, pulling out those key insights to simplify things a bit.
Okay, right. So let's start with the basics. The core idea, when you look across the board, there's one thing that's pretty consistent: the purpose. Almost every country we examined sets up these visas specifically for full-time academic study. That seems clear. But even with that shared goal, the names they use, the specific visa types, wow, they vary wildly. It's like everyone agrees on why someone's coming, but they all put up different road signs, some much clearer than others,
That's a really good way to put it. Most are definitely geared towards higher education, universities, colleges, recognized institutions. We see that with the F1 in the US, the UK's student visa, Australia's subclass 500, India's S visa. The intention is clear: serious full-time study. But then, like you said, the names just go in all sorts of directions.
Right.
So you got the straightforward student visa in places like the UK, Australia, India, Japan, they call it the Raigaku visa, Germany, Russia, Turkey, Italy, Spain.
Huh?
Quite a few use that direct label.
Okay, that seems simple enough.
But then Canada and Norway call it a study permit, which, maybe subtly shifts the emphasis to permission to study rather than just permission to enter.
Ah, interesting nuance.
Right. And Singapore and Malaysia use student pass. Then you get residence permit for studies in Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Norway again, which kind of hints that your student status is tied closely to your right to live there, your residency.
More integrated, perhaps.
Exactly. And some countries like Switzerland, Italy, Spain, Germany might issue what's called a national visa, type D. That's a broader category that just happens to cover studying. France has its long stay study visa, or VLSTS étudiant. Ireland uses a D study visa. South Korea, a D2 visa. China, an X visa.
Wow.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Not just the variety, but how the name itself doesn't always tell you the whole story, even though the core purpose full-time study is pretty much the same.
It really is like different packaging for the same thing underneath. But okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think, for a lot of people planning this. What if your plans aren't just a standard university degree? Maybe you want to learn a language or study a specific trade or skill. Is it always just one single student visa that covers everything?
Oh, definitely not. What we found is actually a surprising range of specialized visa types. They're designed for very specific situations. It shows how some systems are getting quite sophisticated, recognizing that not everyone fits the traditional university mold.
Okay, like what?
Well, for vocational or technical studies, the US has the M1 visa, which is different from their main F1 academic visa. Canada's study permit is actually quite flexible. It covers vocational training too. So that's an example where one permit does cover more ground.
Got it. What about things like exchange programs?
Yep, covered too. The US has the J1 visa, often used for cultural exchange, including study components. New Zealand has a specific exchange student visa, and language preparation is a big one. Some countries have visas just for that.
Right, because sometimes you need to learn the language before starting a degree.
Precisely. Germany actually offers a dedicated language course visa. Japan's student visa can cover Japanese language schools. South Korea has the D4 visa, specifically for language training or some other non-degree courses. And knowing this distinction is vital, applying for the wrong type, even with the best intentions, could mean getting turned down right away.
So it's definitely not one size fits all. What about the length of study? Does that make a difference? Short courses versus, say, a full degree?
Absolutely. That's another critical point for planning. The UK, for example, clearly distinguishes. They have a short-term study visa for courses under 6 or maybe 11 months, which is totally separate from their main student visa for longer programs.
Right.
China does too. They have the X1 visa for studies longer than 180 days and the X2 for shorter programs under 180 days. France also has a temporary option, a VLST visa, for programs under 6 months. It shows they recognize that, a short intensive course just has different needs immigration-wise than a multi-year degree.
Makes sense.
And then you get into some really niche categories. Germany has this quite interesting student applicant visa.
Applicant visa, so not even for studying yet.
Exactly. It lets you be in Germany while you're applying to universities there, trying to secure admission. It's a fascinating way to facilitate that pre-study phase.
That is quite unique.
It is. And then think about younger students. Australia has the subclass 590, a student guardian visa, for the parent or guardian accompanying a student under 18. The UK has a specific child student visa for those aged 4 to 17, and New Zealand offers something called a pathway student visa.
Pathway?
Yeah, it's designed for students planning to do multiple courses back to back, maybe an English course followed by a diploma, then a degree. It lets them get one visa covering the whole sequence, avoiding reapplying each time.
That sounds incredibly practical.
It can be. So these specialized visas show how countries are trying in their own ways to cover all the different facets of studying abroad. It offers precision, which is great if you fit neatly, but it also adds layers of complexity, doesn't it?
It certainly does. That's a lot just to figure out which visa name even applies to you. So, okay, let's talk about the actual process. You've picked the right visa type, hopefully.
Yeah.
What happens next? It sounds like it's not just about the name, but the whole journey, what we call the procedural labyrinth. It seems like there are things you need to do before you go, but also crucial steps after you arrive. Is that right?
That's absolutely a key insight. Getting the visa sticker in your passport, often that's just your entry ticket. The real administrative hurdles, the deep dive into the system, often starts after you land.
Right.
And missing those post-arrival steps isn't just a small mistake. It can seriously mess up your legal status. Turn the dream sour pretty quickly.
Okay, give us some examples.
Well, take Canada. You get your study permit approved, right?
Nice.
But depending on your nationality, you might also need a temporary resident visa, a TRV, or an electronic travel authorization, an ETA, just to board the plane and enter Canada in the first place. It's an extra layer.
Ah.
Or Russia. Their initial student visa is typically only valid for 90 days. Once you're in Russia and enrolled, you then have to go through a process to extend it to cover your whole study program.
So the initial visa is the end of the story there.
Not at all. And that brings us to those post-arrival formalities you mentioned. They are super important and easily missed. It's definitely not a case of get the visa, you're all set. In Spain, for instance, you arrive with your visa, but then you must apply for a foreigner identity card, the TIE. That's your official local ID.
Okay, like registering with the local authorities.
Pretty much. In Turkey, similarly, you need to apply for a residence permit after you arrive. India handles extensions through the Foreigners Regional Registration Office, the FRRO. They're the main body dealing with foreigners, so any visa extensions, changes, that usually goes through them.
So you need to be prepared for more paperwork after you've already traveled and settled in. That feels like a big detail someone could overlook.
It really is, a huge detail. And then there's another angle, sponsorship and management. In some countries, the university or maybe a specific government agency plays a really direct role in your visa process. It's not all on you.
How does that work?
Well, in the UAE, it's usually your university that sponsors your student residence visa. They handle a lot of the process. In Singapore, the schools themselves apply for the student pass for you through the ICA, that's their immigration authority. Malaysia centralizes things through education. Malaysia, Global Services, EMGS, they're basically the gatekeepers for international student passes there.
So the institution is much more involved.
Yes. And the Netherlands involves their immigration service, the IND. Sweden uses the Swedish Migration Agency. It shows this whole spectrum, from you doing most of the application yourself to processes where the school or an agency is heavily involved. And finally, don't forget visa validity. How long is it actually good for? That varies hugely too. It might be just 1 year and need renewing, like often in the UAE. Or it could cover your entire study period, like in Sweden and Finland. Or maybe up to 5 years, or the length of your course, like in India. Knowing that specific time frame is critical for planning, especially for longer degrees.
Definitely. That's a really thorough look at the practical steps. Now, something that comes up constantly for international students is money and experience. Does the information we have tell us much about whether students can actually work while they're studying? It's such a big piece of the puzzle for financial planning, maybe getting relevant experience, especially if you're not coming from a wealthy background.
It's a massive question, you're right. And yes, our research does give us some specifics, but the important thing to know is it's definitely not a universal yes, you can work. For instance, Ireland's long-stay student visa, the D-study visa, it grants something called Stamp 2 permission. That's significant because Stamp 2 specifically allows part-time work during studies. That can be absolutely crucial for students managing costs.
Right, a lifeline for many.
Exactly. Similarly, in Denmark, if you have a residence permit for studies, you're generally allowed to work part-time, typically up to 20 hours a week. But, and this is a really big but, it's vital to understand that this permission to work isn't automatic everywhere.
Ah, okay, so don't assume.
Definitely don't assume. The information clearly shows these specific work permissions are often exceptions, not the standard rule baked into every student visa. You can't just land with your student visa and expect to find a part-time job legally. It really varies from country to country and sometimes even depends on the type of student visa within that country. It's a detailed perspective students absolutely must check carefully for the specific place they want to go. Honestly, it could even influence their decision on where to study in the first place.
That makes total sense. Very practical consideration.
Absolutely. So just to kind of wrap up what we've dug into today, the world of student visas, it's incredibly varied. It goes way beyond just one single student visa idea. We've seen that, okay, the core purpose is nearly always academic study. But countries use a huge range of names for these visas. They offer very specialized types for things like vocational training, language courses, or short-term programs. And the requirements are different too for getting in, for what you need to do after you arrive, like registration, and crucially for whether you're even allowed to work. Understanding all these details, these nuances, is really the key to making those international study plans actually happen smoothly and avoiding some major headaches down the road.
That was a fantastic overview. Thank you for breaking that down. It's clear that navigating these pathways takes real attention to detail and, well, being ready to understand how each country does things its own way. But the chance to learn, to grow, experience a new culture, that's truly invaluable, isn't it? All the best to everyone navigating this process, and we will meet again with another important matter again.